Hey guys, welcome back to Tactical Pontoon. I'm James, and what's been up this week? Not exactly a terribly busy week. I worked all weekend. It's top secret, I can't tell you what it was. However, last week, I talked about the video of the HK USP that pretty much disappeared. So that's one of the things I'm going to go over tonight. And a few other things. I would like to say goodbye to my tier trigger. I actually just sold this today. As I've always said, it is perhaps one of the most beautiful triggers that you can get for a Glock. However, it's just never been for me, and so I'm giving it a new home. I'll be shipping this out tomorrow, and say goodbye. Beautiful trigger. Maybe eventually in the future I will have one, but not for now. Honestly, my favorite shoe at this point is either the Suarez semi-flat, which is no longer produced, but it is a copy of the Apex shoe, which I am a very big fan of as well. Actually, one of my test shoes right now is an Apex. I've got another one on the way. When I do bring out my triggers, that's pretty much what it's going to be, as an Apex. I like those shoes. The design had to grow on me, and for some of you, I can definitely understand if it's not your favorite, but I really do enjoy the Apex shoe. Okay, that being said, let's get on with the newest acquisition. As you've seen in other videos, it is the HK USP in the 40 slow and weak. Which, if you've seen my channel at all, or maybe my Instagram, where I post pretty much anything and everything about what goes on in the tactical pontoon world, which I do recommend. That is Instagram, literally Tactical Pontoon, one word. Check it out. That's where everything goes first. So I'm not a fan of the 40 slow and weak. It's just kind of like one of those rounds that they produced as a stopgap. It works. It's just like a smaller 45 is really all it seems to me. It's the same speed as a 45, maybe even a little slower or faster depending on the loadings, but it's smaller in diameter. So there it is. It's the 40 slow and weak. It's a 10 millimeter that they cut the balls out of. That's just what it is. And Scott, I know you're going to be watching this, and I know you're not going to be happy, but all you care about is rifles anyway. So now you will know I am a fan of the 357 Magnum, or in some ways I would consider this a 9 millimeter. Did I say 357 Magnum? This is a 357 SIG, which was designed or introduced in 1994 as a semi-automatic version of the 357 Magnum. Beautiful shell. This is actually, a lot of people think that they took a 40 Smith & Wesson and necked it down for the 357 SIG, but in all reality, this is a necked down 10 millimeter shell. Which, what is the difference? Well, the 10 millimeter cartridge is actually thicker than the 40 Smith & Wesson cartridge. Which, do your research. You will see that the 40 Smith & Wesson is not just a chopped 10 millimeter. They actually made the cartridge cheaper. It's thinner. It will not take the same pressure loadings as a 10 millimeter or the 357 SIG. So, lesson of the day, hate me if you will, but it is the 40 slow and weak. That being said, of the 40 slow and weak, this is the H&K USP in 40 Smith & Wesson. Now, the thing about the H&K USP is it is literally one of the first pistols. Now, you'll see the hammer up. It is not loaded. Got that nice decocker, which if you're not used to decockers originally, using that decocker for the first time, it's a little bit disconcerting. But back to the story. This pistol was designed originally for the 40 Smith & Wesson from the ground up. This was not a 9mm like the Glock 22 that was just given a different barrel and a few other things. This is actually designed from the ground up as a 40 Smith & Wesson. Now I won't judge because it was considered the new round for everything, and special forces, FBI, police forces. So in order for them to take advantage of that, the H&K brought out the USP. This pistol, which is kind of an offshoot, they have kind of a very similar background with the Mark 23 SOCOM, which was also being designed at the same time. So there are a lot of features that it shares with the SOCOM, which is, if you are a gun geek at all, you know that that is perhaps one of the most tested handguns in the world. It was and still is kind of a failure because it was designed as not a backup to a rifle, but a replacement for a battle rifle. So they really kind of missed the mark with that pistol, but it is still a tank. Following up with that, you have the HK USP, which is in itself military grade tank. I am a Glock fan, if you know me at all, and this is as, if not more reliable and stronger than a Glock. So that's saying something. You can go ahead, you can do your research. It is the truth. This is a beast of a gun. It literally is, and man, it is smooth. You rack it, the quality is there. The weight of this gun, the size of this weapon, just really, you know that you have a very serious weapon in your hand, and it's bare bones. There's not much in the way of frills with this. This is not something you wear with a tuxedo. The VP9, you wear it with a tuxedo. The Walther, you wear it with a tuxedo. The USP, you're wearing fatigues, okay? Big cutout for your hands with gloves. I mean, they designed a recoil system up here that actually helps mitigate the recoil. And after shooting this gun, you know, the 40 Smith & Wesson is a bit of a snappy cartridge. This brings it down to pretty manageable levels. Now, I haven't shot it in a 9mm, but I can only imagine it's literally, it has to be a pussycat with 9mm because it tames the 40 down really well. It came with some basic 3-dot sights. This one is actually date coded 1998, so this is a fairly old gun, but either it was not used very much, somebody had put a terrible Hogue sleeve over it. Please don't do that. So they did try to take care of it. There's just minimal wear on the surface. The H&K put a very rough or very tough surface coating on their slides. This is just very beefy. This gun, which also has my favorite paddle mag release. I know some people just are not a fan, but honestly, I really like it. That's one of the things, probably my favorite thing about my Walther PPQ that I had was the paddle mag release. Now, it's a fairly decent sized gun, so instead of reaching my thumb over, and I don't exactly have the largest hands in the world, I would say that they're medium at best. So really for me, reaching over with my thumb is actually slower than if I bring my trigger finger down and hit that paddle. When it shoots those magazines right out of there. This one actually is probably one of the This one's got a Glock magazine spring in it. I'll get to that here in just a second. Interesting story. But it does. It shoots those magazines out of there. This is a fun gun. But as fanboy as I am, because this is an HK, I am a huge Metal Gear Solid freak, if you will. I played the crap out of the older games. However, nowadays I really don't have time to play it, but it's an HK, it's a USP. I could probably be only more excited if I actually had a Mark 23. So the problem is, we come back to the 40 slow and weak. Now, I have several 9mm pistols. I have one 357 SIG, and I just don't want to buy 40 slow and weak. I'm just not going to stock up on that. I'm going to spend enough money on the 357 SIG that just adding another cartridge for literally damn near the same price as the 357 SIG just isn't in my budget. I'm not going to do that. Now, if you look at can you see that? Oh yeah. Does that say 357 SIG? It says 357 SIG right there. I contacted Rim Country Manufacturing. They make a lot of aftermarket HK parts. They make stuff for the MP5s. They have PSG-1 barrels. That would be another fun gun for me. HK freak, okay? I just am. So I got a hold of them, and they still had some of these barrels in hand. And so, of course, I had to have one. But doing my research, it was said that the 357 SIG is not happy with the USP. That's one of the reasons why they didn't release a 357 SIG USP. It seemed to boil down to the feeding from the magazine. The magazine just doesn't seem to be very happy feeding 357 SIG, which if you're familiar with the Glocks, the 357 SIG just feeds night and day with the 40 Smith & Wesson mags. So I've been doing a little bit of testing and research with that. That is why this has a Glock spring in it to bring the pressure up. The factory HK springs, which may just be they're 20 years old, as to why they're kind of weak. And also the design of the magazine, it has a little runner that runs along here, and it just doesn't seem to stabilize the round as well as the Glock magazine, which I have right here. And this one has been modified to cycle and work in my HK. This is just kind of a rough prototype. I do need to finish it up. I've got a shim glued on here. I actually had to rough out a cut up here for it to lock on. Still working on locking the slide back. This follower I modified. It worked for a while, locking the slide back, but I cut it too far, so it doesn't lock the slide back. It does work. It will cycle, and it will cycle the 357 SIG. However, one of the other things I noticed, and before doing this modification, I went out, I took 5 rounds in each magazine. They actually both cycled pretty well. The Glock magazine of the two was the one that failed on the last shot. I racked it again. It put the round in the chamber. We were good to go. Look at that. Look at that beefy recoil spring. This is one of the things that helps the USP mitigate the recoil. It's just this dual recoil system dual recoil spring system that just seems to work really well. I could get into the science of it, but I didn't rehearse that. I didn't think about it. I really was more excited to show you my 357 SIG barrel by Rim Country Manufacturing. This guy was $160. The website showed they had 4. They got 3 left. May have to get a second one just because I'm crazy. One of the things I noticed, however, is the feed ramp was very narrow. And that was one of the things I was having trouble with when I would rack the slide by hand to feed the ammunition. It was hitting on the feed ramp. So I've actually taken and widened it out. I actually reprofiled it a little bit so it was not quite as steep, because it just, I would say about 30% of the time, sometimes more, the rounds were actually just deading off off this feed ramp. So I've got it reprofiled. I'm going to finish polishing it, but so far the results by hand have been very, very pleasing. Hopefully we'll get out this week. We'll put some rounds down the tube. Until I've got a few hundred rounds through this, I don't see keeping this around as a defensive handgun in the 357 SIG until I've actually proven it worthy. And that being said, I really don't have any 40 Smith & Wesson defensive handgun rounds, so it's pretty much just a range toy at this point, until it's been proven. Really is an easy handgun to take apart and put back together. Dare say easier than the Glocks. So just a little brief overview of the HK USP now in 357 SIG. This is now a man's round. This gun in 357 SIG, it makes me very happy. I'm very warm and fuzzy on the inside knowing that I have a 357 SIG USP. So that's pretty much what we've had going on this week. Pretty much it. Going to do some more testing of that. Also, I did take advantage of the eBay had a daylight savings sale of 20% off. Picked up a JMT Saber trigger, so that should be here. I know I don't do much with ARs. I just unlike my good friend Scott, I am more of a pistol guy, handgun guy than I am a long gun rifle guy. So I really don't play with the ARs as much. Maybe I'll build another one here soon. I don't know, but got that trigger coming, so that'll probably be next week on Swimming with the Pontoon. That's pretty much it. Leave any questions or comments that you have below. I will keep you updated on the reliability aspect of the 357 SIG conversion. Really don't see me going back to 40 Smith & Wesson unless there's just, I can't get it to work, but I will make it happen. So if you have any experience with an HK USP, whether it's a conversion, the 9mm or the 357 SIG, leave a comment below. Any questions, whatnot, tell me how terrible we're doing, or if the new light is too shiny on my bald head and maybe I need to do a matte finish. I don't know. Let me know below. Follow me on Instagram because that's really where most everything happens. So until next time, I will catch you later on Tactical Pontoon.